All right, Luke. We apologize. We were a few minutes late. I got stuck in Dallas traffic once again. But I'm looking right now at these updated CFP rankings, the first of the season. And I'll be honest. I like what I'm seeing so far. That's Tennessee Indiana matchup would be quite intriguing. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm really happy with BYU being at 9. I think it's well deserved. I don't think that they should be ahead
Yep.
of Indiana or Tennessee. I think that's exactly right, and I like SMU being the first team out and A&M being the second team out. So I think when it gets past 14 right now, all those are teams that can work their way in with wins, or they can eliminate themselves with losses. Same for Alabama and LSU, obviously coming up, but the so far, we have to wait and see what goes on with the top seeds. But I like what I'm seeing. I think they got it right, and I think with 12 teams, it makes it a little bit easier on the committee.
I will. I will say this. No, it does. Like there is. Like seeing this for the first time. Like there is a clear distinction between who the teams that belong in it are and who aren't. Like that border is a lot clearer at this point. I will
I
say
agree.
this, and this is a hot take. I would replace Notre Dame with SMU. I think SMU is more deserving. I think they have a better resume than Notre Dame does. I don't think we can ignore losing to Northern Illinois at home. I mean, that's
Well,
inexcusable. And you're talking a team that's on a tear. Like SMU is rolling over everybody that they play right now. So it's more about building up SMU than it is tearing Notre Dame down. And so I would put SMU at number 10 and take Notre Dame out.
and my only rebuttal to that is I think that Notre Dame is pretty capped at 10, but I think that SMU has the ability to play their way up to a higher seed than Notre Dame and eventually potentially knock Notre Dame out of the playoffs. Like I think that both SMU and A&M would move in if both teams won out. I think both teams would move in to the bracket over Notre Dame, and obviously, conference championships make that a little bit more shaky. We'd have to see how that plays out because
Oh yeah.
I mean, really, we don't know how they're going to value conference championship losses, especially if a two-loss team makes it. But I like what I'm seeing right now.
Oh my God.
Um,
Could you imagine the Texas Alabama matchup? Yeah. In Austin? I mean, I would be driving down for that. You know that.
oh yeah, 100%. And so they put Penn State at the 7, and they put Texas at the 6. So does that mean so you have Ohio State? You're assuming that the top 4 is going to be
It's
Ohio
gonna
State,
go.
Georgia,
Oh,
to
they got
fill
they
those
got
spots, right?
Georgia. They got Georgia at
Or Oregon.
3. So they're gonna put Ohio State over
Yeah,
Georgia.
okay. That's right. Or
Which
Oregon. It'll be Oregon,
Oregon
right?
and Ohio State both over Georgia.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't know what to think about that. They got Ohio. Oh my God, Boise State would be going to Columbus. Oh shit, I
That'd be
love
a tough
Boise State,
matchup.
but that would be. I think that would be a. I don't know though, boy. Like I said on another podcast last week, Boise State is constructed like a P4 team.
Oh, they are 100%. They're constructed like an old SEC team.
Yeah, I think that they can go to Columbus and at least compete for a half. I think they can make that game very interesting.
This bottom part of the bracket would be really compelling. The top half of the bracket would be more of your Cinderella runs, I think, outside of Ohio State and Oregon. Um, but I'm looking at Alabama, Texas, with the potential to play Miami. Those are just bona fide old college football powers and some new. It looks like to be the new college football powers. And then Notre Dame and Penn State. It's like
That's
It's like
great.
we're in 1980
That's great. That's like
Georgia
Joe,
if they win.
it's
So,
Joe Paterno, Lou Holtz type shit. Like I love that.
yeah, that would be a great matchup. But like you said, I mean SMU. I'm not exactly well versed on who's coming up on SMU's schedule, but if they keep playing, they pass the eye test right now, and I was very down on them early in the year.
So they made a switch to Kevin Jennings at quarterback over
Right.
Preston Stone. It made all the difference. Like they move the ball right down the field. It's like warm knife through it's like a warm knife through butter. Like it's unbelievable how they move the ball down the field.
They do.
They're averaging 43 points per game with Kevin Jennings at quarterback. And their upcoming schedule, since you asked, the reason why I know all of this stuff is I put a video together about SMU, and I'm not going to be able to release it because I'm going to be at work until 11 p.m. tomorrow night, and so I did not have that in mind. I put all this SMU video together. I'm not going to be able to release it. It kind of sucks, but it is what it is. But their remaining schedule is Boston College at home next week,
Okay.
and then they've got
Virginia.
Then they go on the road to Virginia, and then they host Cal. And
so that's 3, 4, and 4 teams.
Yeah, they're probably gonna go to Charlotte and play Miami.
Which, I mean, that could be a firework. If this offense is what we think it is, that's going to be a firework game.
Oh, I think so. I think that game's a shootout.
Yeah, that game would be. I think that would be the higher scoring conference games.
Oh yeah.
Now, one thing that I was kind of disappointed in, and I think a lot of people probably are, is the fact that South Carolina was left out of the rankings and Missouri was number 24. And I think that that's just completely disrespectful. And just A&M is a good team, and a win like that. And not only did they just beat A&M, they dominated them the whole game.
And how do you leave South Carolina out of these rankings after what they did this past weekend? They 20-pieced a top 10 team. They should have beat Alabama. They came this close to beating Alabama several weeks ago, and they should have beat LSU. There were some really shitty calls in that fourth quarter, honestly, and they should have beat LSU. And so that they got that. I don't see that a lot. They had that game taken from them. They got Lenore Sellers knocked out in that game. They still came in 3 of beating LSU. I mean, this is a team that's legitimately. I know it's a cliche thing to say, but they're legitimately 5 points away from being a playoff team. If you have one loss and you beat Alabama and LSU, you're going to the playoff if you win out.
And not only that, when they played Alabama, Lenore Sellers wasn't 100% either. I mean, that defensive front is the best defensive front in the country. I mean, they're fast. They play well against the run. I mean, A&M was running the ball incredibly well. You saw they ran the ball against LSU, and they just couldn't get anything going. And just on that point, I know Marcel Reed won you the game against LSU, but I really thought that they should have given Weigman a little bit of run in there, because I think that both quarterbacks are better at different things. And I think if Reed can't get the run going, then that really limits his ability. And I understand wanting to trust him and saying he is the guy, but you weren't shy to make a quarterback change against LSU. And I think that and that's just a fan perspective. You know, I've been on I think the way that those guys react to each other, I don't think it would have been any hard feelings at all. But I understand where Elko was coming from, giving him the confidence as well. But it just didn't work.
I've never been a huge two quarterback system guy. Like
neither have I.
It has to be a very particular case, but in that case, I think it could pan out.
Yeah, I think that when both guys are extremely dynamic in different roles and against different opponents, and I think that if it's been this late in the season against LSU, and you basically saved your season against LSU, and as you see now, A&M sitting there with 2 losses in that 14 spot, and really just kind of hoping for some carnage ahead of them. They could beat Texas, and that would probably put them in, but that they're a really interesting case. I think when I was talking about maybe a 2-loss team playing in a conference championship that could lose and have 3 losses, that A&M would be a really, really compelling case of whether or not they make the playoffs. They're very borderline. I'm curious to think of what you think of Indiana.
Well, I'm high on the Indiana train. I mean, I had that video last week. Shout out to all those Hoosier fans out there, by the way. If there's any of you that are new watching this right now, shout out to the Hoosier fans. I got 3.5 thousand views from the video I made about Indiana last week. So a lot of love for Hoosier Nation. I think that Indiana is constructed to win now. I really do. Like if you watch that team, like there's some times where you get these teams that get off the hot starts. They have kind of an easy padded schedule and take advantage of it. Indiana's hasn't been the hardest, but they've also gotten better every week, and you see signs of dominance out of them.
And I'd say an example of that's Pittsburgh.
Yeah, yeah,
And
like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had a fluffy schedule, and
yeah,
they got dismantled by SMU last. Like Pittsburgh. Pitt is the kind of team I'm talking about with that. And granted, they've had a great season so far, but are they really like a bona fide undefeated team in November? No, like
I mean,
that's
this
not what they are.
is it unfair to say that this Indiana Ohio State game will be the biggest in program history? I'm not well versed on Indiana's football history. I know it's not incredible, but I know they had that game when Michael Penix was the quarterback against Penn State. But I mean, this can they afford a loss because the committee's showing that they value them. I mean, they respect them.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean they had them in the top 12. Like they
yeah,
obviously think, and Indiana was a big question mark for me because I knew how the AP valued Indiana, but
yeah,
you'll flip on the college football playoff ranking sometimes, and you'll see, wow, like the AP and the college football playoff were way off on this team. And there was a thought in the back of my mind that Indiana would be one of those teams. They have them right smack dab in the middle of the playoff, and so I
yeah.
I do think that Indiana could even afford this loss and still be okay with their resume. I mean, they've kicked the living shit out of a lot of these teams that they play this year too, and so that has to be factored in.
So
This is no fluke team. Like I think if Indiana has just that one loss, I think they belong in. I mean honestly, Luke, I want your thought on this. They're both Big Ten teams. I watch Indiana and I watch Penn State. Which product would you rather see on the field in January? Because I know who I'd want to see.
let me tell you this. I called James Franklin. Now I do like kind of like videos like you. I just posted them on Snapchat. James Franklin versus Ryan Day in a big game, the stoppable force versus the movable object. And I don't know why, but I think everybody in the country knew that Ohio State was going to walk in there and just dominate that offense and just really just show that the level in the program is just different. James Franklin, I have never trusted him in a big game. I think I believe Indiana and Penn State play coming up, do they? Or am I wrong about that?
They don't.
They don't play. I think
No.
Indiana would beat them on a field head to head.
I was gonna say I think and like I don't even think it's a fluke. I think Indiana's a better team. I think I think they're a better coach team. I think Indiana should be favored in that matchup. I think Vegas would value Penn State, but I would pick Indiana to win that game. Like that's a legitimately really good team. I just from watching them play these past couple of weeks, I know who I'd rather see in the playoff. I think that Indiana is the much more well constructed, polished team. I think that they're more consistent than Penn State. I think they know how to get more out of the talent than they have than Penn State, and that's why I'd rather see get in. Oh no, I think we lost Luke, folks. I think we lost him. Well, this is our sign here to end this thing. I think it's election nights. There's a lot of other things going on right now in the country. Thank you all for sticking with us here for the college football top 25 breakdown. I'm sorry for being late. I tried my best to get back in this traffic, but we'll be doing this each and every single week now until the official playoff bracket is released, and then we'll be determining a schedule to follow that. But thank you all for joining and have a great day.